Welcome to today's show. My name is John. As always, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes or follow the links to social media in the podcast show notes. So please subscribe when you're finished listening. You can also go to snarkymoviereviews.com to read notes, bios, and other random movie thoughts. Today's movie is Shield for Murder, 1954, and it's badass. Edmond O'Brien is amazing as a bad guy. Director Howard W. Koch managed a bunch of really tough guys and beautiful dolls in this late film noir. I was amazed that movies this good are just floating around out there on the interwebs. I'll quit gushing. We have quite a few show veterans, so I'll get going with them. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
As I've already mentioned, the great actor Edmond O'Brien plays Detective Lieutenant Barney Nolan. O'Brien was first mentioned in episode 30, Birdman of Alcatraz, 1962. John Agar, a part of the John Wayne Group, was cast as Detective Sergeant Mark Brewster. Agar was covered in episode 15, The Undefeated, 1969. Carolyn Jones had a small role as a bar girl, Beth. Jones was covered in episode 99, The Big Heat, 1953. Tough guy Claude Akins played gangster Fat Michaels. Akins was covered in episode 110, The Caine Mutiny, 1954. Both Emile Meyer as the stern Captain Gunnarsson and Richard Deacon, uncredited as the professor, were covered in episode 35, Blackboard Jungle, 1955. William Chalaret had a small role as the assistant district attorney. Chalaret was covered in episode 14, Band of Angels, 1957. Marlena English played the role of Patty Winters, the girlfriend of Detective Lieutenant Barney Nolan, Edmond O'Brien. Marlena English was born in San Diego in 1935. By the age of 12, she was nicknamed Marla. The young beauty began modeling and acting in amateur theater. Marla won a local beauty contest in San Diego, and this led to her signing a contract with Paramount in 1952. She started out playing small roles in movies like Red Garter 1954, Shield for Murder 1954, and Rear Window 1954. She got a big break when she was cast in The Mountain, a movie with Spencer Tracy that was being shot on location in France. For some reason, she withdrew from the project. The studio was so mad they suspended her. After that, it was all B movies for Marla. These movies included Three Bad Sisters 1955, Runaway Daughters 1955, The She-Creature 1955, Flesh and Spur 1955, Hell's Horizon 1956 with John Ireland, and Voodoo Woman 1957. She is noted, however, as a great screamer. Then, she walked away from all of this at the age of 21. She was married for 56 years and had 5 children. Marla died at the age of 77 in 2012. Vito Scotti played Joe the bartender and was uncredited. Scotti was born in Naples and was fairly dark-skinned. At the age of 7, Scotti's family moved to the U.S. His mother became very popular in the Italian theater. At the theater, Scotti learned pantomime and farce. He began performing this work on stage and then moved to movies. He had a great career playing waiters, officials, and other small ethnic parts. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
This movie starts hitting right out the gate. A man walks down a dark street. He checks his watch and lights a cigarette. He screws a silencer onto his snub-nosed .38. He watches another man exchange something with 2 men in the car. When the car leaves, the man with the .38 grabs the man by the car and walks him into an alley. When you hear them talking, the man from the car is a money runner and the man with a gun is a cop. The cop is Lieutenant Barney Nolan, Edmond O'Brien, a veteran policeman with 16 years service. The money runner tries to pay the cop, but when Nolan says $25,000, the actual amount he is carrying, he knows he is being robbed. Nolan shoots the money runner in the back, takes the money, removes the silencer, and then yells, "Halt or I'll shoot," before firing 2 times into the air. A crowd of well-dressed citizens rush into the alley as they wait for the police to arrive. Unknown to Nolan, his crime has been witnessed by deaf-mute Ernst Sternmuller, David Hughes. A dirty cop just can't get a clean break. As the police cars drive into the alley, the credits roll. Nolan's partner and good friend, Sergeant Mark Brewster, John Agar, shows up.
Barney, how'd you make it so fast?
I shot him. I was bringing him in. He tried to break.
Did you have to kill him?
It was an accident. The shot went wild.
Nolan says the shot went wild and he killed him by accident. Brewster makes out the report. Brewster and Nolan make it back to the station, and a reporter named Cabot, Herbert Butterfield, is waiting there to get a story. Nolan goes straight to the captain of detectives, Captain Gunnarsson, Emile Meyer. Gunnarsson is no nonsense and sends him to pull his own personnel file.
Go pull your personal package from the file.
Cabot goes to Brewster and asks for the story, saying that Nolan killed 2 people the previous year and 1 the year before that. Brewster sticks with his buddy. Gunnarsson takes the file and calls in Brewster with the report, leaving Nolan waiting. When he finally lets Nolan in, he rips into him, saying that he better learn to stop thinking with his trigger finger or he'll be back as a beat cop. He then says he will stand up for him and it was a justified shooting. Brewster recommends that Nolan go away for a while. Nolan says he is going to see his girlfriend, Patty Winters, Marla English. Nolan still has the stolen money in his overcoat. Patty is rocking fishnet stockings, and a laced back, and off the shoulder back, and nearly off the front top. She has been promoted from cashier to cigarette girl.
She's trying a new job.
She's what?
Barney. Why don't you come inside? Barney, you're hurting me.
Whose idea was this?
I asked Dave. He needed someone. He said it might lead to me up there on the stage.
Nolan freaks out and roughs up Patty and the bar owner a little before he demands that she gets dressed and leave. Back at the station, 2 gangster private detectives arrive. They introduce themselves as Fat Michaels, Claude Akins, and Laddie O'Neill and say they are working for Packy Reed, Hugh Sanders. Packy is the gangster that owns the $25,000. They leave a clear message with Brewster that Packy wants to see Nolan and they want the money back.
Hey, Brewster.
Sergeant Brewster.
My name is Mr. Michaels.
I'm Mr. O'Neill, O&M Investigation Service.
We're acting in the interest of a client,
In connection with a bookmaker named Perk Martin.
now deceased.
Who's your client?
We're working for Packy Reed.
Tell you, man, when Martin got killed tonight, he was carrying some of Packy Reed's property.
What was it?
25 grand.
What?
25 grand.
Brewster then asks for a day from Cabot before he runs the story. Nolan is playing kissy face with Patty. He takes her out to a new subdivision and gives her a tour of a model home. Patty is struck by the nice house. He shows her the kitchen first. Wow.
Show you the kitchen. Look at this. It's a beauty queen kitchen, the whole thing. Everything's automatic. Electric garbage disposal, dishwasher. Up here we have an electric stove, 3 burners.
Special cooker.
Uh-huh. And there's a refrigerator and a deep freeze and even a rotisserie.
Barney, it has everything.
He leaves her in the house for a minute and goes out back. He buries the money against the back of the house while Patty practices hosting dinner parties. Finally, Nolan asks Patty to marry him. After seeing the kitchen, of course she says yes. Reporter Cabot lays it out for Brewster, and he clearly says normal cops don't kill and beat people for fun. Nolan drops Patty off at her apartment, but Fat Michaels and Laddie are waiting in the shadows. They tell him that Packy wants to see him right away. When Nolan leaves, the 2 hoods double back and grab Patty. Brewster shows up and runs the 2 off. Patty invites him in and he says he wants to talk about Nolan. She asks if Nolan is in trouble and says he is going to see Packy. Brewster lays out the entire premise of the theft. Patty tells of the house and the marriage plans. Brewster is doing everything he can to keep faith with his friend. Nolan shows up at Packy's place and he is welcomed in. Packy says he wants the money back that was taken from the money runner. The fight on television reflects Nolan being knocked down. Packy says Nolan can't hide anywhere if he doesn't give the money back. Packy is spreading the word to the newspaper. Captain Gunnarsson is interested in the case as well, with the newspaper story and the calls to the station from Packy. A beat cop brings a young punk into the station.
This beauty's all yours.
Let me go, you tin god!
All right, come on, sit down. Manager of the Save-A-Lot Market, 9th and Robbins. Brought him into Stockbroke. What's his name?
George Washington.
I did like about 2 years in the reform school, George.
You coming on or off duty?
Off.
All right, go home and beat your wife.
Nolan talks to the kid and understands his whole backstory. He gives him a little tough love and money to pay for the food he stole. Nolan says he did the same thing to Brewster many years before. The assistant DA, William Chalaret, comes out of the captain's office and starts going over the report of the killing with Nolan. At the same time, deaf-mute Ernst Sternmuller arrives to tell about the killing he saw in the alley. He hands a note to Nolan saying he saw the killing. Ernst doesn't recognize Nolan, and Nolan says he will come see him later. Brewster shows up at Patty's house. He is checking Nolan's movement and has them all mapped out. Patty says they were never apart from the time he picked her up at the club. Brewster gives her a warning to be careful until this is over. Back at Ernst's house, he writes out the full details on a pad of paper. Nolan arrives and sees the view of the murder was perfect from the house. Nolan starts trying to buy off Ernst, but in a rage shoves him to the ground, accidentally killing him. Nolan cleans off his prints and throws the dead body down the stairs. However, Nolan didn't see the written account. Patty starts trying to track down Nolan, but the police office says he went home sick. Nolan is sitting in a bar drinking double bourbons and smoking. The bartender Joe, Vito Scotti, keeps them coming. Nolan phones Patty's work and home but can't locate her. Beth, Carolyn Jones, rocking bleach blonde hair, moves in on Nolan.
Do you know what's wrong with mirrors and bars? Men always make hard eyes at themselves. Do you know that there's a people in the jungle that believe a mirror steals your spirit away? Maybe it'd do me some good. My mother always said I had too much spirit. Double bourbon 3 times. Did you know you could get goggles without a doctor's prescription that way?
Skip the lip. I'm not interested. I'm busy.
Girl business or business?
She gives him tough guy lessons on how to hold a cigarette. The duo move to a booth. Brewster gets assigned to the murder of Ernst. When he checks out the room, he finds a notepad, and now he knows that his friend is a killer. Back in the bar, Beth has an odd triangle on her arm. She puts the lip lock on Nolan, and he asks about the bruise. She doesn't care where it came from, and Nolan gets disgusted.
Where'd you get this bruise?
Huh? Oh, I don't know. Somebody gave it to me, I guess.
Don't you even know who it was?
What difference does it make? It doesn't hurt.
Nolan calls Patty, and she lets him know that the 2 gangsters came back and grabbed her. He then calls Packy and asks the 2 gangsters to come by the bar. Nolan switches his gun to the right side just before the men come in. He grabs the men and savagely beats them with his pistol.
All right. You got a match?
Sure. Bring the loot?
Yeah. Let's do a bottle of wine.
He throws money on the table where Beth is and leaves. When Nolan gets home, Brewster is there to take him in. Nolan tries to lie his way out of it. Brewster pulls his gun and tries to arrest Nolan. Nolan asks for a day's head start. Brewster says no, and Nolan jumps him and pulls a gun on him.
Look, kid, we're pals. We don't make trouble for each other.
I drew a deaf-mute's case tonight. They thought he died in an accident falling downstairs.
What do they think now?
I haven't filed my report yet. You murdered Martin deliberately for the wad he was carrying.
Nolan starts to kill Brewster, then he decides to just knock him out. Nolan goes to Patty's apartment and tries to get her to run away with him. He doesn't tell her that he's on the run for murder.
Packy Reed and his gunners are out to get me, and all my buddies at the precinct are out to catch a goat for Packy Reed. So I'm in the middle. One or the other will nail me for sure.
Barney, this is crazy. Clear your name. Why run away?
For 16 years I've been a cop, Patty. For 16 years I've been living in dirt, and take it from me, some of it's bound to rub off on you.
He becomes enraged that Brewster was at her house. He slaps her and leaves her crying on the bed. Brewster takes his info to Captain Gunnarsson.
Got a murder for you, Captain.
Fine. I got plenty of murders. All I'm interested in is murderers.
Killer's name is Barney Nolan.
Look, sonny boy, I've heard that prick Martin story 18 times, and so has every other man in the precinct. A known underworld boss nails an accusation on a cop. What are we supposed to do, turn handsprings and lock him up? Nolan killed Martin in the line of duty, period. Unless there's evidence to the contrary, and there isn't.
The guy that wrote that is dead. What he wrote is exactly how Barney Nolan killed Perkins.
Everybody in here. Everybody. Barney Nolan's gone sour. He deliberately shot Perk Martin. And when a witness showed up, a deaf mute, he put him out of the way.
And they begin an all-out search for Nolan so that they can bring the bad cop in themselves. Nolan finds out they are looking for him. He changes into his beat uniform and is able to get past the cops looking for him. Patty has disappeared from her house. Nolan uses some criminal connections to hide with the professor, Richard Deacon.
Does your friend know how to talk?
I'm paid to hide you, not entertain you. I got an examination tonight. Night school at my age isn't easy.
That's tough.
Business administration's a very difficult subject.
The tickets and passport will cost Nolan $10,000 plus expenses for a total of $15,000. The deal will be made at Union High School that night. Patty shows up at the police station. She finally tells Brewster that Nolan was away from her for 5 minutes at the model home. Brewster knows that's where the money is hidden. It looks like Patty and Brewster may be falling for each other. The man with the tickets and passport shows up, and Nolan pays him with a fake wad. Fat Michaels shows up with a beaten and bandaged head. Paggy was behind the whole escape plan. Nolan breaks away and Fat Michaels wounds him. The two have a gunfight across the swimming pool, complete with screaming swimmers. Nolan jumps into a car and heads to the model home. Brewster knows where Nolan is headed and calls it in. They send every cop in the precinct towards the model home. Nolan makes it to the model home and shoots one cop. He digs up the money. It's too late, the police are all around. He runs to the front of the house but is surrounded by a swarm of police cars. He fires at them and they are forced to gun him down. Brewster takes his badge and looks as the money lays scattered on the ground.
Greatest story, good.
I guess what makes this movie so good is the way Nolan turns from good to evil, or a happy moment goes from good to bad in a flash. World famous short summary. Going for that cotton candy is like playing with fire. I hope you enjoyed today's show. You can find connections to social media and email on my site at snarkymoviereviews.com. There are links in the podcast show notes as well. Remember, this show is completely free and independent. All that I ask is you jump over to iTunes and give me a review. It really helps the show get found. Beware the Moors.